Severance Season 2, Episode 3 has goats, mystery, goats, forbidden love, more goats, reintegration, and did I say goats? Someone call HR.
But not for me!
Hi, I'm Jared B, JBuck's innie, and thank you so much for clicking this and helping me earn the coveted yo-yo perk from hitting last week's quota. I'll show you some tricks at the end of this video, and I'm happy to be talking about Severance Season 2, Episode 3.
Episode 3 is sort of an individuality type episode, with all of our characters really dealing with a struggle unique to them. Helly and Mark take it upon themselves to search for Ms. Casey, printing off missing posters that we can assume were sketched by Irving. Now, I have been on Team Helly R since the beginning, since we've seen her since Episode 1.
And I'm sticking to my guns until this theory crash and burns, but I do have to admit that Helly is a little bit sketchier than normal.
With her overly comforting of Bert and interactions with Mark on the way to the goats. We could chalk this up as teenage love, the way that we've all kind of acted when obsessed with a crush, because these two have done some smoochies. Now currently I'm sitting like 80-20 for this whole Helly R Helena fiasco, with me Team Helly R. This continual search for Gemma feels like it's inspired by pieces of Dante's Inferno.
This is not unique to my channel, I think like Screen Crush mentioned it.
But Mark searching for Gemma falls into the same realm as Dante traversing the 9 circles of hell, searching for his real-life muse, Beatrice. Beatrice had died many years earlier, similar to Miss Casey/Gemma, and her love was said to be a divine love, a love that transcends time and space, in this case the Severance procedure. Now, the series doesn't entirely fit into this mold, folding in several other literary references, TV shows, movies, and so forth. Like the whole Ragabi sequence that's later in this episode feels like we're implanted into the world of the Matrix.
Whoa.
Jumping back to the Dante's Inferno similarities, there's 9 circles of hell, maybe tying in with the 9 Lumen core values. And if we were to look at the different circles, we can assume that Season 1 was the Limbo Circle. Now, Season 2 so far easily fits into the second circle of lust. Love has been hinted at a handful of times, and lust is even muttered in the conversation between Mark and Devin.
As well as your kindergarten teacher. What the fuck was her name? Mrs. Lustgarten?
Yeah, Mrs. Lustgarten.
Wow.
Ironically, gluttony is the third circle, essentially overindulgence.
Which could tie in with the unlimited snacks now in the kitchenette, and Dylan being fixated on his perks. These parallels are definitely something to keep an eye out for when you are watching this series, so here is your homework. Do it, folks.
It's time we talk about the goats. Everybody wants to know about the goats. Goats, goats, goats.
There's a little white model of a farm and a tiny tunnel Mark and Helly have to traverse, leading to open pastures. Adam and Eve, Garden of Eden by chance? I did think it was interesting that the tunnel looked like a tinier version of the white lumen hallways that the employees have always been wandering around in. Anyway, this area feels like a very Fallout Vault tech in its design, workers, really all of it. I did love the vending machine awkwardly placed here. It's like my 12-year-old self arranging things in The Sims. R.I.P. buddy. We learn that this is the Mammalians Nutrable, with the head of the department being played by Gwendolyn Christie. Surprisingly, not much is revealed about this new department, aside from them being wary of MDR because of the fabled pouches and larvae, much like O&D. It all feels like a scare tactic to leave MDR alone, rather than MDR avoiding venturing to these new departments.
Maybe the larva thing is like a bigger reveal down the road, but who knows?
Really, from a workplace satire, I see this as a clash between blue-collar and white-collar workers, almost like if a database desk dude had to go down to the warehouse and ask a forklift man some questions.
At least we know that they know about Miss Casey. She's been running wellness for all of the departments, but why? Why is the real question.
Wyatt, the goat bottle dude from Season 1, actually makes a nice cameo here, and I'm guessing that these goats are solely for food for the exports elevator that I'll talk about in a little bit. Big old black goat man, though, is really the thing we should be focusing on in these scenes. No doubt this is symbolic of the pagan deity Baphomet, portrayed as a goat-headed individual closely connected to the occult, with this version being popularized in the mid-1800s.
A potential tie to Kier and Lumen's beginnings.
Baphomet's hands are positioned in such a way, pointing up and pointing down to mean as above, so below, showing a harmony between mercy and justice, which also could be an innie and outie split in half. Goatman mentioned stargazing as well, which could also tie in with a pentagram symbol often associated with Baphomet positioned above him.
More signs of the occult, and again, they could be on a journey to hell. But right now, any and all evidence is kind of flimsy, so I guess let me know your different viewpoints on these goats, weird interactions, and the Wranglers.
Irving's mission this week is to hit up O&D, checking if they have any information on the missing Ms. Casey. But before doing so, Irving reveals to Dylan that his innie has been able to recreate his Audi's paintings of the dark testing room, elevator, and hallway. This information is more than likely the innie message Irving was referring to on the payphone to the mysterious stranger in episode 2. Truly, it is still a mystery how his Audi was able to paint this elevator, with the leading theory being that Irving's apparent lack of sleep. My dude loves coffee, allowing his subconscious to bleed these memories over. For example, all of the black goo instances in season 1. Irving arrives to O&D greeted with a warm embrace from Felicia, who is one of the few severed employees who feels for Irving, knowing he lost Bert.
Baby, come back.
Before moving on, there's a couple paintings that make a return from season 1, the mysterious uniformed general painting, assuming this is Kier wearing a Union uniform, tying back to the new Kier pardons his betrayers painting in episode 1, along with the courtship of Kier and Imogen painting mirroring the courtship of Bert and Irving.
But I believe that this is a hint at much more, with Ether being the first analog version of Severance.
I did way too much research on this, so follow me. Ether has been used as an anesthetic for well over a century, dating back to the first documented use in 1846. Now, through Severance's lore and paintings, Kier worked at an ether factory where he met Imogen. With this open vat, there were no doubt fumes up in that biatch. Ether addiction or intoxication results in the user experiencing disoriented thinking, euphoria, and visual and auditory hallucinations when exposed to higher doses, essentially limiting certain brain functions. So I'm assuming that Kier and Imogen discovered this and used this to get through their days at the ether factory. Imogen does look like she's reaching out with a rag to be like,
Do it to it, Lars!
allowing them to essentially sever themselves through this less than ideal work. Over centuries, this was developed into a chip for their brains. It's still the same chemistry of the analog version, but now with new, shiny, fresh technology.
A huge tangent here, but what if the severed floor isn't even real? There's about 8 different hoops to jump through to make this actually make sense, but if it's following the same chemistry, the severed floor is purely a hallucination, which would explain all of the weird decor and technology.
Getting back on track, Irving shares some laughs in his drawings with Felicia, showing multiple sketches of Bert. Sure, you can chalk this up as a teen obsessing over his crush, but I want to say that any Irving is doing this to see if his Audi will get the message just like he did with the elevator paintings. There's also a book sketch being either one of the Kier compliance handbooks or Ricken's The UUR book.
Either way, things take a bit of a darker turn when Felicia sees the picture of the dark, ominous hallway.
Instantly, the tone switches, and we quickly learn that this is the exports hall. If we're to believe that the elevator goes down to the testing room floor, and this is an exports hallway, and O&D seems to be 3D printing supplies, I have a feeling that the testing floor is where Petey's map said that people actually lived in houses.
Watering cans and hatchets have already been sent down there, so is there like a whole goddamn society of permanently severed people living and working under Lumen?
Like some sort of Jordan Peele's Us kind of scenario. Yet another breadcrumb, but if Felicia is as cool as she portrays herself, she's going to give Irving the directions, and we gotta figure out who the heck this mysterious person that is sent for the exports.
Yeah, we're all trying to find the guy who did this.
Who is this guy? Why did they change protocol? Answers, baby, we need some answers. Unfortunately, Dylan, on the other hand, is entirely setting himself up to betray his MDR team, solely focusing on himself so he can receive time in the Audi family visitation site. This new room is the repurposed security room from season 1, showing that he no longer needs to fear this place. But let's cut the BS. This is a manipulation tactic as he wanders into the room meeting his Audi wife, Gretchen.
Initially, I didn't buy that this was actually his wife, but later scenes debunk this.
It's interesting Lumen is allowing this despite certain things being off limits, like her slipping out Milchick's first name, Seth.
Yeah, Seth warned me that this might be weird.
Who's Seth?
Don't you?
Please refrain from sharing information that may be privileged or sensitive.
I didn't think that there were cameras or microphones, It's both an endearing and depressing interaction because Dylan is like a smitten little boy and Gretchen is seeing someone she probably hasn't seen in years. The initial reason she actually fell for him, which is not only a mind fuck from Dylan's perspective, but Gretchen's as well. Dylan compliments her bag, taking a page out of the Andy Samberg playbook.
Nice sack.
Sorry?
You're the,
Oh, thanks.
You look pretty.
What did you say?
I said you look shitty. Good night, Denise.
I could see her falling for this version, and it brings up some weird moral dilemma of like divorcing from the half of your spouse you aren't really fond of. Much like a lot of this episode, there are parallels with other movies, shows, stories, with this scenario no doubt taking a page out of the 2014 surrealist comedy thriller, The One I Love. Great movie, big recommend, with the rough outline of the film following a married couple to a retreat where they are both shown the ideal version of their partner, exactly how they would wish that they were. Now on paper, this sounds amazing, but in reality, without spoilers, it's far from.
So I no doubt see Gretchen falling into this trap, focusing on the good rather than the bad.
Even any Dylan could eventually be in on this because he learns his Audi is a fuck up in contrast to his model motivated employee on the severed floor. This could also show how innies are almost opposites, or rather the tempers that are more muted on the outside world are given the spotlight on the severed floor. A few things in this room is the statue of Kier being a miniature version of the one that we saw in season 1 with the whole Mind Collective. Dylan is given 18 minutes with Gretchen, along with there being 18 monitors, with 18 symbolizing bondage or slavery in the Bible. This version of Dylan is held to the confines of the severed floor. And lastly, one of his children's names is Merrick, which can mean the ruler of the sea, which could be another sign that deep memories can bleed between Innie and Audi, with Dylan initially suspecting that the MDR team was cleaning the oceans and punching eels.
clean up all the deadly eels and shit, because we can't cohabitate with that.
Audi Dylan, on the other hand, is just a couch potato, just exhausted dad trying to make it through life with his wife and 3 kids.
In the living room, there's a Kier Egan doll on the floor, similar to the dolls at Cobel's in season 1. Dylan's reading a car magazine called Midlife Driver, and I believe that this is foreshadowing the driver or divide that's going to be placed between his Audi self, his Innie self, and his wife. If, and this is a big if, she continues these Innie visits. Gretchen also looks to be a police officer, potentially working the night shift, and if I were a writer on this series, I know exactly how I would tie this in. So the other day I did a short form video on the connection between Miss Casey, some Severed employees in Irving's notes, Peggy from the Severance short story The Lexington Letter, which is a big recommendation if you enjoy Severance, and potentially Miss Huang, all being involved in car accidents or car adjacent.
If you remember, Miss Wong was a crossing guard.
Then in episode 2, Mark mentions that he did see Gemma's body after the accident, while it is implied that she was a little crispy fried.
You remember I identified her, right?
Yes, Mark.
I saw her body.
Yeah, I know.
If Ricken died and his body burned, I'd be sad for you.
We know Gemma, or rather Miss Casey, is alive from seeing her in season 1, and later Ragabi adds that she too saw her alive. So is Lumen straight up scoring people in accidents or maybe people in hospitals and swapping them out with clones or maybe fake bodies? I mean, Stranger Things taught me to be cautious of this. And what an absolutely bonkers story beat it would be to find out Gretchen was the one who responded to Gemma's car accident. A huge, massive web of lies, all connected with Mark at the core.
At this point, it's like borderline fan fiction, but what an insane twist that would be down the road. So let me know your thoughts or theories on this in the comments.
One final thing is the 1980s, early 90s Danger Mouse cartoon Dylan's kids are watching. So I did way too much digging on this and found out that this is Season 3, Episode 1, titled The Invasion of Colonel K. Danger Mouse has to shrink down into Colonel K, who is described as an extraordinary man, much like Keir Egan. They enter his mind and body because another spaceship has entered his mind, alluding to a Severance chip. They have to navigate an endless series of tunnels, pipes, and so forth, like the Severed employees do with the endless hallways. They speak using a voice box, with the board using a speaker box.
This could be solely a Severance propaganda targeted at children in this world.
Or if this is a clue like most of Severance has been, the Severed employees could be shrinking down to enter Egan's digital mind. Heck, all of Lumen could be a digital recreation tying in with a more technologically advanced ether hallucination, or rather the entire campus of Lumen is Keir Egan's mind.
The more I dig, the more I'm not buying any of this, but I will say that the choice of cartoon episode is telling.
Milchick is one of the more interesting portions of this episode, instantly turning into a crabby Abby when finding Mark's half-deflated balloons in the hallway. Deep down, I want to believe that he cares for the Severed employees despite the tough persona he has to put on now that he is management, as he is thrown not a curveball, rather a Jordan Peele get out what the French toast is even this, as Natalie gifts him, quote, inclusive re-canonized paintings to help him more connect with Keir's history, and truly, I was speechless at this reveal.
I'm speechless.
Keir Egan in blackface? I don't even know where to begin aside from saying, wow. Now, initially I thought this could be a new lore drop of Keir, maybe with the quarter end they switch things up, because we really haven't seen the start of a new quarter, but that feels like a terrible excuse. Rather, I see this as any corporation trying to be inclusive and entirely doing something that's the most tone-deaf thing ever, despite it making its way through dozens of approvals. Hey Dove, I still remember, especially since Natalie chimes in saying that she received the same. Her being that chill and smiley though, just doesn't sit right. It raises a red flag, and now thinking about it, most of the management handlers are not Caucasian. Lumen potentially not learning from their early days in the 1800s.
Symbolically, this actually ties in with the opening song of this episode.
The Stone Roses Love Spreads, where the song's lyrics are a telling of the Passion of the Christ, various moments in Jesus' life like the Last Supper, crucifixion, and death, while reinterpreting Jesus as a black woman. In this case, these, quote, pivotal life moments of founder religious figure Keir Egan, but changed to a black man. The biggest takeaway is Milchick's company man persona clashing with his own personal beliefs. He has worked hard for this management position, so is he going to go with the flow, stick with the status quo of how Lumen treats their workers, or stand up for his own personal beliefs? This thing he worked so hard for is not what he expected.
It's like getting your supposed dream job, you've been working, everyone wants this position, and then you find out you're just working with a bunch of vile, just awful people.
This is going to be a seesaw that he goes back and forth on as he stows the new paintings, almost looking the other way to this mistreatment. Cobel seems to be leaving her Lumen allegiances in the rear view as she heads home. To be clear, it's an assumption that Salt's Neck is her home, not being a real-life city in our world, as she's conflicted between the signage and what we can assume is her mother's breathing tube. This was briefly spotted in Season 1 with the name Charlotte Cobel and the date of birth being 1944, so the timing lines up for this to be her mother. Again, we have allusions to the Matrix, Follow the White Rabbit, as Cobel's car is a VW White Rabbit, and 238 could reference Acts 238, meaning Cobel needs to repent for her Lumen sins and instead return to her glory. I'll admit, a massive stretch, but the confliction when looking at the breathing tube tells me that Lumen has her mother down on the testing floor.
Aside from this, when meeting with Helly, I'm almost positive that a large majority of Lumen's help has Severance chips in them,
allowing the board to act through them almost like a hive mind. This could be the, quote, beehive protocol viewers briefly caught in Season 1, And the why don't we reset is such a threat. She may be, being reset on the testing floor.
Why don't we reset?
There isn't much to Ricken in this episode, despite him looking like he's going to fall to the influence of Lumen, doing exactly what I theorized in our episode 1 breakdown.
Twisting and using the UUR teachings and blending them into the Kier religion. This could be in part due to the recanonization we learn about through Natalie and Milchick's interactions. If Ricken takes this job, he's going to go down a dark path, which perfectly ties in with the Greek goddess Persephone that was whispered in episode 2. Now, a quick refresher, Persephone was the Greek goddess of the dead, grain, and spring. Spring is coming from the melting snow. She was kidnapped by Hades, dragged down to the underworld to be his wife, queen of the underworld. Now, metaphorically, Ricken's words are being dragged down to the severed floor, a form of an underworld. Persephone was forced to split equal time between the underworld and Mount Olympus, like a severed employee's innies and outies. Does this mean that Devin is going to physically be dragged to Lumen? Debatable, but I think that Ricken is no doubt wrapped around Natalie's fingers, and she knows it.
Honestly, same.
Oh, hot. Want to touch the hiney?
The initial passage Natalie reads feels like a jab at Mark and his season 1 drinking, as there's various objects around the room showing that Lumen is already creeping into Devin and Ricken's life. A statue of a person on the table, resembling an innie waking up on the conference room table. Various cubist form paintings on the wall, think like Picasso, as this was a revolutionary new approach to representing reality in art, with various geometrical shapes causing a fragmented look, similar to what I assume Mark's reality will be after his reintegration, while also potentially hinting that the severed floor is a fragmented reality. Lastly, a ram or goat head bust, typically associated with the occult or Baphomet, like I mentioned when we talked about the goats.
Lastly, Outie Mark is on his own mission,
working with Devin attempting to burn the image "Who is Alive" into his retinas. This both references the title of this week's episode, while also being a question in regard to what any Mark yelled at the end of season 1 before switching back.
He's alive!
Mark is trying to see this after image, and kids, do not try this at home. This is not even possible. We do learn that the unusual elevator transitions this season are actually how the Severance elevator works, so any theories that there's something weird going on, something a little bit different, can be squashed.
Honestly, this meeting is a little bit strange unless she's able to track Mark's severance chip.
As this turns into a Matrix escape reality type scenario as Ragabi integrates Mark like PD in season 1, the equipment Ragabi uses is radiology X-ray imaging, with the 2 wavelengths resembling the 2 versions of Mark currently out of sync. The 4 powdered circles and colored wires attached to Mark's head tie back to the 4 temper colors of woe, frolic, dread, and malice. Ragabi mentions that the monitors differentiate the 5 brainwave frequencies.
Delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma.
Now these are more than likely associated with the 5 bins that MDR places numbers into, giving us even more information that they are mapping the mind. The instrument scanning Mark's head is black and white, referencing the innie and outie, tying in with the different credits color in this episode being white instead of the usual black. This all feels like the orientation back at Lumen with a handful of questions.
Now, 2 potential theories kind of bleed together here.
As I've assumed complex feelings like love screws with the severance procedure, so it's interesting that Ragabi asks Mark about love, along with the theory that Lumen is tied to water or water sources, with Mark having to name the Hoover Dam. Still not enough evidence to really clamp either of these down, but definitely more clues, as Mark is fully integrated, or at least from what it looks like, hearing PD asking him orientation questions as his current life is split with his first day at Lumen. The ending song is The Who's Eminence Front, with the lyrics describing a party in which people hide from their problems behind a facade. In this case, Mark hides from Gemma, or the hurt of Gemma, with the severance procedure.
And we are done. I hope my Outie is happy with the way this video turned out. And I'm so thrilled. I'm thrilled to have earned the Lumen Yo-Yo perk. I was told that if this breakdown gets 1,000 likes, I'll get some new perk. I don't know, Lumen is really changing things up around here.
Anyway, feel free to drop all of your thoughts, feelings, theories, and out there ideas on Severance Season 2, Episode 3. I'll be sure to see everyone next week for our Episode 4 breakdown, and maybe, just maybe, I'll get another perk with everyone's help.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone!
Oh, fuck.